Okay, so this is the aircraft that I've been using for my DIY telemetry and autopilot system for the last few months. So this turned out not to be the aircraft that I initially showed in my introduction video, and that's because I had some issues with that aircraft, and it wasn't designed the best. The wing geometry was a bit awkward, and I found there wasn't enough wing area really, and it was a bit unstable, and I just wanted to build a new one. So this is nothing special. It sort of followed my typical design. It consists of a simple square fuselage with sort of a triangular tail, and then the wing, which we'll look at in a second. So flipping it over, we've got a standard tricycle undercarriage, and it does have a nose wheel steering. So the nose does come off. This was just cut out of foam and then covered in masking tape, and there's two pins that go all the way through that hold it on nice and securely. There's a little bit of slack to it, but it's pretty secure. This thing has been through quite a few flights and taken quite a beating. So as you can see, I've got some of the telemetry gear in the back, and there's a I think it's a 5,000 milliamp hour battery up in the front, which makes it balanced pretty much bang on. The wings are the topic of today's video. So the wings have been okay up to now. I mean, in terms of a plane, if you look at this, they're quite flexible for just one battery, and ideally I wanted to get two 5,000 milliamp batteries, and they do flex quite a lot, especially when you're pulling some G. But I mean, you can see that they flex quite a lot, but they don't snap, so I guess that's good. It's showing it's been weight saving, that it's only as strong as it needs to be. So it's a standard twin motor configuration in opposite directions to counter any adverse yaw, and again, the motors are plenty powerful enough. I think with one battery in, this thing can climb vertically. It's got a greater than 1-to-1 thrust ratio, and it's just powered off some normal 30 amp ESCs. So as I'm sure you're aware, the subject of today's video is the wings. So I'm just going to take off the super advanced wing attachment system of 2 rubber bands, which works extremely well. So if you do manage to crash it, it generally doesn't break the wings. And the wings are just going to come straight out. I've undone most of the wiring, so that's why they come out. So the fuselage for now can just stay as is. So here are the wings. So flipping them over, we can sort of see the goodies. So looking on the underside, we've got all the wires coming out. So this does have flaps with a servo each, and obviously ailerons and the 2 motors. So as you saw there, it's the wing is quite flexible, and the method of construction for this wing is the same method that I normally use, which is a hot wire cut insulation foam sort of structure and shape, with a wooden spar going down the middle, and then covered in masking tape. And the masking tape here, parcel tape, is not really that good. It doesn't tend to stick very well to the polystyrene. It used to stick quite well to foam, but not so good on the polystyrene front. So the pods are just glued onto the parcel tape, and because the parcel tape doesn't stick very well, these pods have sort of come loose over quite a few flights, and obviously that makes it prone to sort of vibration. However, that's not the main issue. That's been working fine. The main issue has sort of been with the ailerons, and that it's just a simple tape hinge, and it's been coming loose at the hinge line, and this makes the ailerons sort of floppy. So when you obviously rolling with some deflection, the masking tape was sort of moving up like that, and it was sort of nulling out the effect of the control. And this was quite a problem when you're at sort of the higher end of the flight speeds, in that you would go to full deflection and nothing had happen, because it would just both the hinge would move and the wing would also twist, because it's pretty weak in the rotational axis. And the tape does help with this, but since it doesn't stick very well, it just loses its grip and then it becomes loose. So today's video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be covering it with a solar film which actually iron on. I've already tested the solar film to make sure that it does stick to the polystyrene and doesn't melt the polystyrene, and it seemed to work fine. So the first step is going to be to disassemble the wing to make it ready for solar filming. Okay, so that is pretty much now the wing stripped. So we're now back to the raw foam and wood. So you can see how I've made this wing. It's pretty basic. It's just the foam and then the spars. So we've got the main spar, and then there's also this smaller secondary spar that really helps the strength of the wing right in the middle. So you can see how flexible it is, and it's even more flexible now I've removed all the tape. So there's a bit of damage to the wing. I think some of it was there when I made the wing, and some of it has happened since, and some of it was occurred when I removed the tape. So I'm going to do my best to try and fill in any gaps and sort of rebuild the trailing edge a bit, using some more foam and some glue in places, because some areas are a little bit weak. And then obviously I need to reform it. So I mean, now you can really see how flexible it is in the rotational axis. So hopefully this film will help that a bit, and along with some more repairs. So cool. Okay, so here is the wing now. So what I've done now is I've attached some balsa wood to create a trailing edge. So pretty straightforward really. I just cut, this is a 10mm strip and this is a 5mm strip, and I just glued it to the edge of the wing. So I cut off the equivalent thickness from the fern and glued it on, and then sanded it to match the profile of the wing. So this is going to also add some rigidity to the wing, which will mean the aircraft can take a larger load, and it's also acting as a good point to attach the covering film. And speaking of covering film, that is the next step. Okay, so now I have done the right wing. So you can see I've just wrapped it round the cord of the wing. So I've cut out where this servo is and where this servo is, because they come out quite far underneath. And I'll probably put some sort of streamlining thing over there, but I'm going to leave them open for when I attach the ailerons and the flaps, so I'm going to get in there. So it turned out okay. There's a few wrinkles on the leading edge, but other than that I'm quite pleased with how it's turned out. I only had green solar film, so it's green, but I'm probably going to spray paint it red or put some sort of red design on it just to make it look interesting. I've also pulled through the wires for the motor pods, because the motor pods are obviously going to go sort of around there. So now the next step is to do the left hand wing. Okay, so now I've done both the left and the right wing. and they've come out quite nice. They were a little bit wrinkly to start off with, but all I simply had to do was turn up the temperature on the iron as it said to do, and then just sort of ironed it over, I guess. And now I've got this nice smooth streamlined shape. However, I found that as I applied the film, it has sort of bent the wing a bit, so it's a bit hard to tell, but the sort of reflex angle has been changed, so it's a bit more of a less of a traditional aerofoil and more of a semi-symmetrical aerofoil. So I'm not sure how that's going to affect performance. It's probably going to make it fly a little bit faster, which for a propped aircraft potentially isn't the best for efficiency, which is the goal of this aircraft. But it's still going to be a lot better than the initial wing. So this has added a tremendous amount of strength to the wing. It should now be plenty strong to take all of the loads. So I'm pretty pleased with it. So now I've got this middle section to do. However, I'm going to add some more stuff here because the rubber bands tend to dig in the foam, and with this trailing edge now being a balsa, that's definitely going to help a lot. However, the mounting points, which are the front and back, I've been using Velcro, and that tends to damage the foam. So I'm going to insert a little bit of balsa on the front and back just as a more secure mounting point, and then hopefully I'm going to iron over the rest of this. Okay, so I've just cut this little piece of balsa, and this is going to slot in here towards the front of the wing, and this is going to allow the Velcro to be easily mounted. So I chose Velcro because this wing's going to come on and off quite quickly, to put batteries in, to change wiring and all sorts of stuff like that. And Velcro is just an easy method of attachment. It's not what holds the wing on. The rubber bands do the actual strength, but the Velcro just allows it to stop the wing from sliding, which the rubber bands isn't very good at stopping. So this plate here allows that to be securely mounted and ensures that it doesn't damage the polystyrene over time with wear. So I'm going to glue that on, and then the next step will be to cover the ailerons. So here is the ailerons from the old wing covered in red tape, and here is the aileron with the tape stripped off. So it's just a piece of standard foam board. So I'm going to cover this with exactly the same covering, and then we're going to attach them. So progress is definitely being made. So now I have attached the first aileron, so as you can see there it is working. So quite a simple method. I obviously covered it using the same film, and then it's simply attached with two pieces of sellotape on either side, and that should make a hinge that's plenty strong enough. In the future, if this isn't strong enough or decide I want to change it, then this sellotape means I can just easily peel the tape off and attach a new aileron or new attachment method. So quite straightforward. So I'm now going to do the same on the other side and on the flaps. Okay, so I've now added the reinforcements in the middle section. So you can see I've put in two thin strips of balsa just to stop the rubber bands digging into the foam quite as much. I've also put this little plate that just covers a hole on the reverse, and you can also see that I've attached the ailerons and the flaps. I haven't screwed these in yet because obviously the servos need to be centered, but they all work, and they're all a lot more rigid and better mounted than they were before. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover this middle section in green, and then we should be able to wrap up this episode. So the wing is almost now complete. So things I've added since the last quick update. I've added bits in between the ailerons and the flaps. In hindsight, I probably just should have made the flaps and the ailerons go up to the same point, but I didn't have any foam board when I made this, so they had to be the same size, so I just added these in these sections. I don't know what it's going to do to the aerodynamics, but it's probably going to do something. I also added rudimentary winglets to the edge of the wings in an attempt to stop wingtip vortices. They might work, they might not. the whole point of it is it's for an experiment. And I've also added some aerodynamic profiling over the servos, particularly the aileron servos, because they're right in the airflow. The servos that do the flaps, this one is actually covered by the fuselage, and this one I've just put some of the covering film over, but it doesn't protrude that much, so it should be okay. So that's almost done. Now the final step is going to be to add the motors back on. Okay, so now I've obviously made sure that all of the flaps and ailerons working, so you can now see both the ailerons working and the flaps also work fine. So for now they're just sort of a standard setup. Ailerons, they're on one channel and the flaps are on one channel, but obviously in the future I may want to mix the flaps and the ailerons, so to do that 4 channels would obviously be needed, but for now I'm just going to leave it like this. I've got no reason to change it for now. So now the next step is going to be to paint this, because the standard Georgie shed colour is red. So we're going to give these wings a nice coat of paint of red, and but actually before that I need to put the motors on. So I'm going to do that now. Okay, so now the motor pods are both installed and covered in the in the same green sort of shrink wrap stuff. So now I'm going to paint this dashing shade of red, and then hopefully it'll be pretty much complete. And then the next step will be to mount it back on its fuselage, and then hopefully do some more flights with it. So I think I'll wrap this video up here then with a final sort of show of it complete. So here you can see the wings are now a lovely shade of shed red, and I've now attached them to the fuselage. At the moment it's just held on with the rubber bands, and I haven't actually attached the Velcro yet. But that's sort of more to do when I finish up the fuselage and do some modifications to that. So I've also added these logos on the wings, so they're only daft. But shed air, there we go. So there's one on each wingtip, and then there's one on each side of the fin. And then I've also tested the load. So there's currently 2 5,500 milliamp hour batteries in here. So obviously that's a total of over 10 amp hours. So that's should give at least half an hour of flight time. I'm expecting. So I'm currently holding the camera, so I'm going to put it on a tripod and I'll show you the wings. So now if I put my hands sort of well, in the midpoint of the wing, that's a good estimate of sort of the wing loading in a normal flight. So if I put my hands about here and lift it up, you can see that there is a bit of flex to them, but obviously they're not too bad. And to simulate sort of a 2G scenario, I'm going to hold it towards the end. You can see that there is a fair bit of flex there, but it's still fairly rigid. So I mean, that's obviously probably about 2G there. If I just hold it, and if I hold it in the middle and sort of bounce it a bit, that's sort of the expected flex, and that's when it's sort of fully loaded. I'm not expecting to fly this much heavier than that. Probably as soon as I've got some more money, I'll buy one 10 amp hour battery or so, and obviously one battery is going to be lighter than 2 for the same sort of capacity. You can see the telemetry project is still ongoing. Just currently got exams with schools, so as soon as they're done, then I'll be able to do some more on the telemetry. But I have tested it in the aircraft, and it has worked fine in terms of monitoring the voltage while it's in the air. So hopefully I'll be able to add some functions to that soon. So that's the end of today's video. If you've got to this point, then thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!